Hello everyone, welcome to episode 32 of ZK Live. This is our Sunday Q&A. It was an exciting week in ZK Painting. I think we got the logo locked in for ZK Finishing School. We have our first two classes for the school filled, and we're starting to book our third class now. I think we're going to try to do it 2 times a week. But tonight we're going to talk about, I had some questions about cabinet finishing. We're going to talk about the school probably a little bit. We're going to talk about sanding. We're going to talk about brushing oil enamel. And we'll talk about that project that just got published in Boston Home Magazine. That was very exciting. I believe that's our first project that's been published in like a major publication. Very cool stuff. This week I should be getting the photos from the photographer so we can purchase the rights to some of them, so I can show you some more of the pictures. But it was a big week. Next week's going to be, this coming week's going to be even bigger. We have a lot of stuff going on. Some deadlines to meet, some people who want things done faster than we can get them done, which tends to always be the case. So we're going to do what we can do, focus on the work, and try to forget about the deadline and just, work as fast as possible. It's not always easy though. We did have the Shoreline guys pretty much finished up the mahogany room. We had 2 panels in that room that we didn't like the color of. They just took stain differently. They didn't take it very well, so we had to apply multiple times, and by the time it was done, if you looked at the whole room, the client would never have noticed probably, but Chris and I looked at it and just thought those 2 should be sanded down to bare wood and restained. So we have 2 panels, just the panel, not even the molding around the raised panel, getting sanded down and refinished. That was a really cool project. That's the project where we did multiple samples of brushed Holland Lac satin, and both times the architect wanted more brush strokes. So when it came time to finish that room off, we're not doing any the walls in one of those rooms. There's a half wall. Those walls are getting wallpapered, but when it came time to finishing those ceilings, it didn't make a ton of sense to me to get flat ceiling paint out and roll it on. It just didn't fit those rooms and didn't fit the aesthetic and the client. So I offered up, well, what if we brushed the ceilings with Holland Lac eggshell to give a more traditional look? And I think it was a great move. The client loves it. They saw it. The paint was still drying. The room's not put together, but I know that the difference between rolling flat white paint on those rooms and brushing the Holland Lac eggshell, I think will pay off in the end in the feeling of the room. I think the idea is, they have reclaimed heart pine for the floors. They went with genuine mahogany for the paneling. And when it's all said and done, that room should not feel like a new construction room. The whole home is sort of designed to not feel like a new construction house. So I think the brushed ceiling was a great addition to that. I'm not sure they even quite appreciate how good it is yet until the whole thing is done. Really proud of how that turned out. The Shoreline guys did an amazing job. I made a post about it, but they ended up using the Corona stain brushes to try to get maximum number of pronounced brush strokes, which was very interesting. So we're still waiting a little bit on carpenters to finish up some stuff, but they're going to start prepping. We are going to physically do the cabinetry, and then the Shoreline guys are going to be doing the rest of the walls. They're not any walls really. It's mostly all panels and trim. So anything that's not cabinetry, Shoreline will do, and they can start working on that now. And then after this week, we'll start on the cabinets. I'm going to pick up the cabinet doors early, but our shop's full right now. We have so much to do. We had we had an issue with paint being mixed on our Lincoln cabinet project, which was frustrating. I brought them the color chip. I brought them the color chart from Fine Paints of Europe, clearly denoting with a piece of blue tape what the color was we were going for. I also messaged my rep and said, here's the color, it's a number. Here's the color that we're going for. If you read the label on the paint that we have, it says the correct color, but it was made in the shade lighter above, one shade above. So we went to put the first coat of paint on, and the client saw it and was like, that's lighter than what I wanted. So that delayed us, which is unfortunate because this company is not, we can't go get our Ilva cabinet paint the way we can get our paint from, Fine Paints or from Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore. It requires, they're not open on weekends, first of all, and it's this whole process. We usually have to wait 7 days to get the paint. In this case, my rep's coming tomorrow morning to pick the 5 gallon up, and bring it back to their facility and tint it properly. But it delays us by days. So that's unfortunate, but luckily we have more work in the house to do, so we can shift our focus to other parts of the project and get those up to speed. The way we built our enclosure worked out because we weren't, they could use their kitchen. They didn't have full access, but they could still use their refrigerator. They could get to their pantry. So we weren't completely in their way by extending for a few more days. So that was good. I used 99 Designs to create a logo for ZK Finishing School. A lot of, I knew generally the theme of what I wanted, but the nice thing about 99 Designs is you have lots of different people who are submitting ideas. So if you guys haven't used it, it's a tremendous way to have a logo made if you don't have an exact logo in your mind that you want. Because it's a contest. So I give a description of what I want, what it's for, the colors I'm looking for, and then a bunch of designers submit initial designs. I think I had 134 submissions. So 134 different logos, and then I got to pick the one I liked the best, and now I'm working with that designer to complete the design. So if any of you guys are ever looking to have a logo created, I do recommend, so far, we're not completed yet, but so far I do like the process of 99 Designs. I think I got a great deal for what I got and the options that I had. If you went to a normal designer, you kind of have their point of view, and maybe they come up with a couple options, but it's not nearly as broad of a range of things as it was going with 99 Designs. So I did post a version of what we're doing. I think we're going to change a couple of things from that logo that I posted, but I'm very excited I have all kinds of ideas running in my head about how we're going to build this school so that we can teach people, and really elevate the level of the craft, which is really exciting. I think you guys will definitely like 99 Designs. I have so far. It's not cheap, but I'm not sure if a $400 logo is really what you want anyway. They have a couple of different options, but I've been pretty happy with it. This week I also hired my intern. We had talked about doing it, but we formally came to an agreement. So I have an executive assistant now. Carney is amazing. She came in right away and she's like, here's the things that if I'm gonna do this, here's what I need you to do. I need to do this, this, and this. We need to get this. I want to start with organization, then I want to do this. And I was like, absolutely. What do you need from me? So a lot of my time is going to be freed up, and I'm going to be much more efficient with this executive assistant now, so I can focus on the things that I'm really good at and stop trying and not have to do all those things that I'm not super good at and also don't really like to do. So that's really exciting. I think a lot of things sort of slip through the cracks right now, and she's gonna get our systems in place and really help us as we move forward. I think everyone in the company is going to benefit from having her on board. She's going to make all of our lives easier, and I'm really grateful that I found her. Again, we use an app called Pangea. If you're looking for interns, that's a great platform. It's sort of like, it's somewhat like LinkedIn for college students who are looking for internships. So it's called Pangea, and if you download the app, you can type in like whatever, marketing. You can type in whatever what you're looking for, and then a bunch of people will come up, students from all over the country, really. You can also find by location. That's what I did for a social media, I forget what I was looking for exactly, but sort of a assistant in my social media and marketing stuff. And that's how she came to me. I interviewed a number of people. She did 3 hours worth of homework before she even came to the interview, and she's been amazing as an intern. And so it's very easy to have now worked with her for a few months. She sees what the company's all about. I know I get to see how she works, and I can feel much more comfortable hiring somebody, having seen them work as an intern first. So I would encourage anyone who's looking at maybe some part-time help. Pangea is a great way to find talented young people. You have to sift through a number of them, just like anything, but I'm really happy with how it's turned out. Our other intern, Kyle, who actually was her little brother, is he's starting high school back again, so he's gone. So our TikTok, we won't have nearly as many videos posted on TikTok as we were posting, but we'll make do. He edits these podcasts and puts them on YouTube and Spotify and iTunes, and at the moment he'll continue to do that. But I didn't get a lot of questions tonight, so we might keep it to just an hour, unless more questions come in. If you guys want to talk about certain topics, please let me know. But we can jump into the... Oh, wait. A couple of them are gone. They were here earlier. Huh. That's weird. Yeah, this might be a short episode. I'm not exactly sure what to talk about. The school is really exciting right now. Carney is my executive assistant is taking over that. What's the weather going to be like in September? That's a good question. I have no idea. It's usually, it's warm. It's nice. You can go to the beach and stuff. The ocean's warm, which is nice. Turner Painting, Chade is coming out for our first for the first class of ZK finishing school. Very excited about that. We have 7 awesome people, as well as Nick Slavic, who's coming out to audit the class and just sort of watch and see how things go. We're going to be working as hard as we can to add as much value as possible and to make it a very an experience that people are really happy about having done. And then I think what we're probably going to end up doing is breaking down the weekends into very specific concepts. And these first 2 are going to be more broad, and we're going to sort of listen to the people that are there and sort of focus on those things. But going forward, I think we're going to have weekends, and I think we may try to shift it to Friday, Saturday instead of Saturday, Sunday. But it's definitely it's a 10-hour day, nice dinner at night, and probably another 8-hour day on Sunday. And it's going to be a lot of. I have bought a bunch of sample boards. We're going to be working on cabinet samples. We're going to be working on MDF samples, and some wood samples as well. So I think that's going to be really exciting. Let's see what else is going on. Yeah, I'm just really excited for that to wrap up the gloss project. We're almost done with the bathroom, and then we have the 2 monster rooms to do. A majority of the work, well over half the work, is done, I think. Phil might disagree, but I think we've got a decent amount of the work is done. We've got the walls with 5 coats of skim coat. They've been primed, 5 coats of skim coat, and they're ready to be sanded, primed, and painted. That sounds fast, but with black gloss, that's not fast. That's 2 weeks worth of work, with 3 people even. So that's exciting. Dust control is really the big issue, but we're doing the best that we can. I think everyone's going to love it when they see it. We have not decided. We probably won't end up brushing those big rooms. We're definitely going to spray 2 coats of primer and 1 coat of top coat, and then we will decide what to do after that. But I'm fairly certain we're going to spray. Just the size of those walls, I think, really lend themselves to being sprayed. Plus, there's not a ton of touch-up advantages by brushing. If you damage the wall, the whole wall has to be rebrushed, which, it's less work, but it's not like massively less work than if we were to spray one wall. So I think we're going to probably end up spraying those. And we got a cabinet job going on. We have an exterior cedar job that got washed this Saturday by a power washer that we use to do some of our cleaning, especially like right now where I couldn't break somebody off to go wash. So it's really good to have skilled people in your network. I can call Andrew. He's a dedicated power washer. He runs a very successful, he's what I am to painting, he is to power washing, so he knows his stuff, and I feel really confident. All I did was give him an address, and he was able to go out, clean the project, and it'll be ready for us in a week or so when Arturo and Patrick go out to coat that. Really cool pergola, if you guys saw that I posted. Silver Phoenix Construction built it. So we're going to be staining that with Armstrong Clark. Super excited. It's going to be amazing. That's always a fun process because it's so easy and so rewarding. And then obviously the mahogany, the big westerly job is going to be very exciting. Watching Shoreline do their thing and then working side by side with them. And this will be, I'm trying to think, this is probably going to be the first big cabinet job like this that we've brushed. Recently, most people have been wanting sprayed cabinets. I find that it's really at the very high end is where people are asking, the designers are wanting a brushed finish on cabinetry. And so really I think there's only one, there's the gold standard for brushed finish on cabinetry is definitely Holland Lac. So we went back and forth with the client about Holland Lac satin and Holland Lac eggshell, and we decided that satin was the way to go, and eggshell will be on walls. So again, we're doing the same thing we did with those ceilings, where the ceilings are all brushed. The walls will all be brushed on this project too, with pronounced brush strokes, which is, it's definitely not standard. When you walk into this place, it's going to be truly unique, and that's the client really does want a unique home. They didn't want just a basic new construction, and this house is so far from basic new construction, it's not even funny now. And a great way for me as a painter to come in and continue that is to offer them the best paint you can, which is the Holland Lac for brush. So there's nothing like brushed oil enamel. For any of you that have seen it in real life or touched it, it's unparalleled. So we'll take all the cabinet doors off, we'll bring them back to the shop, we'll spray the first 2 coats of primer and the first top coat, and then we'll brush the final coat, just for speed. And there's no reason really to brush all the coats all the way along. So that's going to be really cool. The amount of paneling and trim work in that home is amazing. And then the island is that crazy Danish oak from the Royal Forest that's just beautiful, beautiful oak. And that's going to get 3 coats of tung oil, and we're going to brush on the tung oil. So, it'll have a natural, easy to touch up, beautiful finish. We did some samples already, and the client likes it, and it goes well with they have these insane, like gorgeous reclaimed heart pine hardwood floors that are just stunning. So that's a very cool project. I'm really grateful to be working on that project. Got to check out a couple of really cool projects in Boston. Put some numbers on those coming up. So it was a good week, and this coming week is going to be another great week. The problem now is definitely way more, too many projects, too many people who want us there, and trying to get everyone there and get things done as fast as people want them to is really a big struggle. When we're going to stay small, we're going to stay at 8 painters. We're not going to grow huge, and so when that's the case, we can get things done faster than smaller companies than us, but we're still, even with 8 painters, there's a lot of people to make happy. And like right now, I'm feeling a little stressed out trying to make everybody happy. Running a company, for me, running this paint company it's a big roller coaster, and so I've trained myself now to understand that. And anyone who talks to me when things are going well will hear me talk about how I'm really trying to savor these moments, these certain days where things just start to line up and you're feeling great and everything's going your way. When those days happen now, I try to really soak that up and be super grateful for it, and be cognizant of how special it is to have those days, and knowing that tomorrow the roller coaster could go down and I could be dealing with a bunch of problems all in a row, because you know how it goes. Sometimes it seems like they all hit at once, and that's just sort of the nature of running the company. That's my job, is to steer the ship and deal with the waves, and they might come crashing in, but we'll get through them and we'll deal with them, and there'll be smooth seas for a while, and then there'll be rough seas, and the ups and downs I've become much more accustomed to, and they don't rattle me and mess me up nearly as much as they used to. I think the first time you have one of the downs, it can be demoralizing, even the first 50. And then when you have the ups, sometimes it's like, oh my God, I'm perfect. This is perfect. Nothing will ever stop me. And I know in the past I had a tendency of coming off those with like a huge letdown, when things would not be working super smooth. But that's the nature of running a company, is you deal with the ups and downs, and when things are good, we try to always really savor those moments, and keep working, because you know that something's going to come up and you're going to have to deal with it. And that's my job, is to continue to deal with things, put out fires, fix stuff, and keep building this company and building the engine that we have and the momentum that we have, because we have great momentum right now, and things are, they're beyond my wildest dreams 4 years ago. I wanted to get to this spot, but now that we're here, it's great, but I'm not letting off the gas pedal, that's for sure. I'm definitely like a little beat. I don't have any questions to answer, so I'm somebody give me something to talk. There were questions on here, and they're not here for some reason. I have this question. We can answer this question. Do you ever wet sand? Yes, we do wet sand. We don't do it often, but there's definitely times where wet sanding is valuable, whether it be for less dust creation. Wet sanding tends to cut faster. So if you're trying to, like when we had a lot of dust in our handrails, the first coat, we did wet sand a lot of that, because 400 grit wet sand versus 400 dry, 400 wet is going to cut faster. So yeah, wet sanding is something we don't do tons of, but occasionally we do. With the paper the way it is now, it's not as much to like prevent scratches as I think as it's been used in the past. The best tool for sanding exterior clapboards, I would say probably an RO 150. Oh yeah, that's what it was. There was a cabinet question that's not here anymore. Someone was asking about products for cabinets. So we actually have a couple different projects, cabinet projects right now. One with Holland Lac satin, like we talked about. That's going to be 2 coats of Fine Paints of Europe oil primer and 2 coats of Holland Lac top coat. That is, to me, that's what we sell as the gold standard. That's the nicest finish you can put on cabinets aesthetically, combined with durability, right? The aesthetic benefits of using fine paints, oil, enamel are amazing. If you take a conversion varnish or 2K poly and you put those next to oil enamel, I think oil enamel wins every single time. It has better depth of color. It has a less plastic feel to it. It's more luxurious and rich, and it's an amazing final product. But obviously it costs a lot more. Maybe not obviously, but it costs a lot more to apply oil enamel Fine Paints of Europe to cabinets versus, say, pre-cat lacquer, which we have began to offer to a couple clients that didn't care about durability as much. Obviously, doing a pre-cat lacquer job is way faster and way cheaper than a Holland Lac job. It's not even close. I mean, pre-cat lacquer is going to dry in 30 minutes to recoat. You can do all 4 coats in one day. Oil, you're going to be, and it's $50 a gallon, where probably even less. I don't really know. I know that it's inexpensive versus $200 a gallon and 24-hour dry times. So dust is obviously a bigger issue with oil. But pre-cat looks good. It's just not super durable. 2K poly, especially water-based, can have a tendency to be somewhat plasticky looking and feeling. If you're very particular, most clients would never notice that. But if you were to touch and feel them versus oil, you will feel a difference and see a difference. Solvent, not quite as much. Solvent 2K is really awesome. It gives you extreme durability and a little more buttery, nice look to it. So I think what I wouldn't recommend doing, what I hate to see, unless budgets are, if the client doesn't have the budget at all, okay, fine, put Advance on cabinets. Like, that's better than putting Regal Select on cabinets. But generally, like, we don't put Advance on cabinetry. We were sort of not forced, but we were pushed into putting Advance on a built-in in that basement project, and it turned out good. And it's not going to get abused at all, and so, like, it's okay. Would I have rather used a 2K poly or oil enamel? For sure. I just think there are better options than Advance for cabinetry, and for not just Advance, any domestic trim paint, if you will. They're fine, but they're not ideal for cabinetry. Especially if you're going to spray, like, just spray cabinet grade finishes if possible. Is how we look at it. But a lot of it comes down to the sales process and understanding what clients want, listening to clients. Like, it's such a skill to be able to truly listen. I'm developing it every day and making mistakes and finding out. But luckily on the last couple, I've not made such a mistake where we lost the client. But maybe we found out later that they didn't quite understand what I was proposing, and so they may have decided not to do, like, this project in Westerly. They had decided not to use us to paint the first floor because they thought we were going to be sanding off the other painter's finish and starting from scratch, and I think they just didn't like the idea of that. And so I was able to explain to them after the fact, when I found out from the architect that that's what they thought, that we were in fact not going to be removing all the old coating. We could just prime and paint over the top. And that was a failure on my part in the sales process, to ask questions and to listen, because if I had done a better job, I would have found out that that was something they were concerned about, and I would have found out that that's something that they believed based off of something I must have said or something they inferred. And I think that's my job in the sales process, is to get to the bottom of what does this client truly value, what do they want, and then and only then, how can I help them? I think I've often come at it with like, here's all the things we can do. Here's all the things we can do. Look at us. We do this and we do this and we do this and here's how this works, right? And it's just like, that's not how people want to buy things. They don't necessarily, they don't want to feel like they're being talked over or not feel like they know enough, right? You don't want to make them feel dumb. But I'm learning more and more to really listen to what they're saying and trying to understand what it is that really matters to them, and then communicate clearly how we can meet those expectations and what that will look like. I think that's not an easy thing to do, and it takes time and it takes deliberate practice, right? Practice is great, but deliberate practice is even better. Really thinking about how did that last thing go, and like picking up on little cues that even when you do work for a client where you realize like, oh wow, they didn't understand what was happening. I did something wrong, or they cared something about something that I didn't necessarily pick up on as much, and or they didn't care about something that I like impressed upon them and forced them to do in a way that they didn't want to. And I think there's a lot to be said for the sales process and truly listening to the client. There's some things where we're gonna say like, here's what we need to do. Like, I can't go below this standard, but I don't need to try to sell them more than what they want. Which, that's not an easy thing to do as a paint nerd. I want to be like, oh, this is the best, and here's how great we are, and we can do all these things for you. And it's really about what do they want, and how do I make them happy. Somebody asks, post-cat conversion varnish versus 2K poly, your opinion. I understand that conversion varnish is still used a lot, and I think the only reason that it's used is because people have dialed it in. And if you've dialed it in and you're Gecko finishing and you've dialed in your conversion varnish and you have it down to a science and you're super cost effective because of it, I get not wanting to change. But I think if you're getting into this or getting into cabinet finishing and two-part products, 2K poly, no one will tell you that conversion varnish is a superior product to 2K poly. The reps won't tell you that. They'll tell you that conversion varnish is great, and it is, but it has some limitations to it. It's a much more finicky product as far as mixing ratios go. You can really mess some stuff up. Most of the time it's by weight, and you have to know the math and ratios, and so mixing conversion varnish can be finicky. Wet mill or mill thickness on conversion varnish is a huge issue. Most of those conversion varnishes have a mill thickness that you cannot exceed. So if you go above 5 mils of paint on the surface, you start to get alligatoring and cracking and some issues with the paint. So if you mess up and you're on your 4th coat because you've got dust in it or something went wrong, you get to 4 coats and now you start to have coating issues. It's also a brittle product. It's hard. It's very hard. It's durable, but it's also brittle because it's hard, and it's a acid bond, which I always go like this. This is acid bond, and this is a polymer bond. And so 2K poly has a polymer bond, which is going to be super durable, but it's also going to have a little bit more flex to it than the acid bond. So unless you have conversion varnish down to a science and it's a perfect process and you're crushing it, then I would say 2K poly is probably the way to go if you're looking for a premier cabinet grade finish. Somebody said, how much gross margin should you make on a gloss job? Well, I think that kind of comes down to every company's different and depends on what you're doing. I would say that you should make the same margin. You should try to make the same margins on all your projects generally. I'm not necessarily trying to make a larger margin on some than others. As a type of project, I may look at a certain project like the gloss project we're on in Boston and decide, you know what, I'm willing to sacrifice my profit margin on this job in order to have this job in my portfolio. And when I decided to do that, I did give the client a very large discount, a $30,000 discount, which is a lot of money. And I gave that to them but very calculated. It's not every day you get to do 2 full gloss rooms and 5 continuous floors of handrail in a Beacon Hill brownstone. And so when I decided to sacrifice my profit margin on that job, I also decided to make sure that we were going to market the crap out of it. So we've had Boston Design Guide documenting the whole process from start to finish. And there'll be a big article about it, and we'll get this project published, and we'll market heavily against the loss of profit that I had. And I think it will be a good investment in the future of the company, even if in the short term I took it on the chin. But generally I think, you want to have your margins around 50% gross profit is the sort of standard in the industry, is a 50% gross profit, because that does not turn into a net profit of 50% anywhere near it. If you run a very tight ship as a company, and as a paint company, you would be, the rock stars are doing a 20% net profit, which is big. If you can turn a 20% net profit and pay yourself well, and pay all your employees well, and pay all your pay everything, pay yourself well, and still make a 20% net profit, you're killing the game. But I think even 10 to 15 is more industry average. But everyone's different, and that's not my that's not my wheelhouse by any means. I listen to a lot of smart people who they're much better at it. We'll have John from Paint School on. He's much better at that stuff, and when he's on, we'll talk about that stuff, and we'll get a guy who knows a lot more about the numbers behind the painting company than I do. I'm working to get a lot better at it, but that's not what's made me successful up until now. There you go. So John's 15% net profit and aiming for 45% gross profit. So yeah, if you can do 45-50% gross profit, you're doing really well. Plenty of guys who will get 60% gross profit on some jobs, and then sometimes you'll get 30% gross profit, and it's all trying to get to 45, I guess, or 50. But honestly, that's not my wheelhouse. Somebody asked me this question, which I thought was funny. If you weren't a painter, what else would you do and why? So my whole life I wanted to be a doctor. I said I was going to go to medical school and be a neurosurgeon. I did go to college for pre-med biology, and I couldn't focus in the college that I went to. I joined a fraternity at Arizona State, which is not the most conducive environment for education. I would not recommend it. If you're trying to have fun, it's tremendous, but I think, knowing what I know now, I would love to be an architect. I think architecture is I really do like quality, architecture. I think it's amazing to be able to build buildings and have them last and stand the test of time. And the design of a building is unbelievable. I'm obsessed with human beings and the amazing things we do. I would love to design, build, run or own. I love cranes. It's so weird, but I love, my wife was like, "Oh, did you see that crane?" I like big pieces of equipment. I'm fascinated by human nature, and when we as a species we've built these machines. The fact that there's multi-million dollar pieces of like heavy machinery is insane to me, and like the amount of engineering, or like big ships and stuff, and it's like, oh, like look at this ship that's a like I don't know, whatever, $50 million like ocean liner, you know, and it's like, I think it would be cool to design, build. I'd love to like, there's so many days I'd love to just like drive a giant front end loader and like move dirt around, and I don't know. I like how like I'm very interested in how things work and what humans can do when we're given the like budgets, if you will. That's why I like the high end painting world. Like, give me the budgets to like really figure out how to be an awesome, like to give you an awesome finish, and I really like getting into that and playing with that. So I think I would probably do something in architecture, or like large heavy equipment design, manufacturing, something like that. I don't really know, but I just think cranes are so cool. I'm always like looking up cranes as I drive by them. Lifts are the same way. Like, I love just like man lifts and stuff. Yeah, this might be a short episode tonight. What else do we have going on? We're gonna fire up the paint heater this week for the first time. I got the whole thing rigged up, so I think tomorrow we're gonna run the first bit of paint through the paint heater with the air assisted airless and see how that goes. Oh, we have some metal projects coming up that are super cool. We have a project in Buffalo that we're starting on the 31st. I'm partnering with a friend of mine, and I'm going to be meeting him out here. He's going to be doing most of the work. But we're doing a front desk at a big commercial high-rise building. This like fancy, crazy building, and they have this like cool curved entry desk, and we're going to be applying Midas metal, actually, a metal coating, gold. It's going to be gold troweled on gold, which is going to be really cool. A real tight skimmed troweled gold. And we're going to be doing what's called a modello. So we're going to like apply a sticker with like a logo on the, after we prime. Actually, we're going to do one coat of gold. Then we're going to apply a modello, which is like a stencil, a sticker. We're going to then do another coat or two of gold. And then we're going to peel the stencil, so there'll be relief, right? So then depending on if there's enough relief and the shadows are strong enough, we may leave the modello and that relief enough to just like subtly have the name of the company or whatever it is, the name of the building, I think, will be on the front. And if that's not dark enough with enough contrast, we may end up like slightly patinaing the letters. And then we'll apply ceramic nanoparticle coating over the top to sort of lock it all in. That's a cool metal project. I have another metal project in Houston that we are working on samples for still. They're going to be sending everything to us, I think. A bunch of mullions for big windows in a big commercial build out that they're doing. So we're trying to dial in the shade, which just sounds funny, the shade of brass. So we have two different types of brass for barrel metal, and the bright brass was not quite bright enough, so we're going to add a little bit of the gold in with the brass this week and mix it and see if we can't get closer to, there's other pieces of brass in this lobby, and so they want to get it a little bit closer. So we're doing that, and then our nickel silver project for Taylor Interior Design, really cool. That thing's almost done, and then we're also almost done with the bronze countertop and sink. We just have to finish the polish, and this week the rest of the ceramic nano coating should be in, so we can coat those. Metal projects feel like spray and pray, or do they feel fairly controllable? At this point, I would say they're like halfway between. We're past spray and pray. Honestly, like last week, we found out that we were using the wrong ratio on a couple of the metals. We had notes from the Vero metal class, and then they turned out to be wrong. So we were mixing the ratio a bit too much metal to binder, so it wasn't laying out very well, which is explained a lot. When you find out a piece of information like that, it explains a lot of the mistakes that we had going on. The product was like laying out like dry sprayed too much, like too rough and not like smooth like paint. So it made for a difficult polishing process. But tomorrow tomorrow or Tuesday I'll be posting about that that metal vanity that has turned out. It's going to turn out really cool. The fact that it came to us as a wood vanity and it's going to go out as a polished nickel silver vanity. Same with the bronze countertops. And I think we're just scratching the surface of the metal, and we haven't really begun to market it too much. Somehow my website comes up before Midas Metal's website. I've had the three architects from around the country have called me to do Midas Metal projects, and they've all said when they thought I was like part of Midas Metal, and then they told me that my website somehow came up first, which we've never tried to do anything to optimize our search engine optimization. So I'm not really sure how that happened, but I'm grateful for it, and we have a number of metal projects now going on because of it, and we just keep getting better. If you guys didn't see, Jekko Finishing just did a metal hood that is phenomenal. Nothing, you wouldn't expect anything less from those guys, but he posted about that hood yesterday, and it looks so good. And it's a curved detail. It was an MDF hood that now looks like it was this like cast piece of metal. It's unbelievable. So the metal is definitely exciting, but we don't have it down to like a science yet. It's still a lot of experimenting, and as far as polishing. Yes, the margins. The goal is to have the margins much higher. I bid another metal project this week for a designer. She wanted a coffee table, this really like abstract coffee table, covered in gold. And the price I plan to get in a year from now, she kind of balked at it, and so I reduced the price to just have another piece in our portfolio of metal. And again, I think those things will all sort of pay off down the road. But it's sort of a calculated risk a little bit to sacrifice some margins in the short term, but with a lot of thought. And it's not just like, oh, I like this person, I'll give them a good deal, or and then if I give them a good deal, I start cutting corners to try to make that good deal profitable. It's like, no, I'm still going to treat that job as a full price job. I just might not make as much, but I'm going to give them a great product. So yeah, we have a lot of exciting things. I'm going to be posting about the designer didn't get back to me today, but we're like this close to the logo being completely perfect, the way I could never come up with it, but what I was sort of hoping for, a unique logo that could be just for ZK Finishing School. And I have so many ideas for the number of all the different types of classes we have and all those things, so we'll see how that goes. Someone said, what is the best and most cost-effective sprayer or pump that a beginner should start out with to start in fine finishes? Oh, man, that's a tough one. I would say there's two options probably. A Graco 9.5 Finish Pro, not Finish Pro, 9.5, a Graco 9.5 Pro Comp. Is what we have. It has a pressure pot, and it's an HVLP turbine unit with a pressure pot. I think you can do a lot with that. I think that you can also do a lot with an ED 655 from Titan, and some small tips. I think both of those are probably pretty good, but that's a question that's kind of loaded. It's most important is like, what products are you spraying? That the sprayer that we use for each project is determined by what is the product that we're spraying and how much of it are we spraying. Those two things sort of will dictate which of the tools that we use. Similar to brushes, like how big is the project and what coating are we using will determine what brush and what size brush that we end up using. So I think there's, if you take a Graco, we're doing the cabinet project right now with a Graco Pro Comp 9.5 Pro Comp. It's a small cabinet project, so we're able to make it happen. But it definitely struggles. It doesn't not do it, but it struggles to get thick water-based coatings on, and it's slow as molasses compared to an airless. I mean, slow as molasses. An airless is like 5 passes, bang, 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 done. A turbine unit is going to be slow and like 15 passes. It's more controllable, more overspray, but it's good for small projects. It's good for it's easier. Once you can learn how to dial it in, it's probably easier to spray than an airless. As far as it's more forgiving. But size of project and type of coating will dictate which pump is best. But I don't think you can go wrong with an ED 655, and you can't go wrong with a good turbine unit with a pressure pot. Without the pressure pot on the turbine unit, I don't love them. Like the gravity fed version of a turbine unit is not like, it's nice, especially with water-based coatings. Let's say it's nice to have the added fluid pressure that comes from the pressure pot. Just that little bit of extra fluid pressure helps it push and atomize thicker water-based coatings. So if we're going to use our turbine unit, it's always with the pressure pot feature. Always. I mean, I guess if we were using solvent 2K, which we've sprayed with the turbine before, clear specifically, you could use the gravity fed if you're doing like a small thing. But for us, there's no reason not to use the pressure pot on the turbine unit. It's tremendous. We've never not used it. First time I ever used that turbine unit a long time ago on a 2K project, I'd use the gravity fed. But ever since, there's no question. It's just better for a number of reasons. The paint's not on your gun. All that weight of the paint is not sitting on top of your gun as you move it, right? It's in a pressure pot with a hose that runs to your gun, so you can more easily maneuver the gun, get in tighter spaces. Plus, you have some fluid pressure, not just gravity. So we're coming up on 7:53. We have about 7 minutes left before the hour's up, and I think we'll probably just cap it at an hour tonight. We got a big day tomorrow of doing a bunch of stuff. But definitely very excited for finishing school and very excited to have Kenney on board. Anyone who wants to email my assistant, we just got her an email address. It's Kenney, Karni, at zkpainting.com. You should send her an email. Welcome her to the ZK Painting team. She's going to be all over a bunch of the stuff that I've not been all over. Let's put it that way. So, again, everybody, thanks for watching tonight. I feel like I didn't have a ton of questions to answer, and I did more of an update of the company, but it is what it is. This coming Tuesday, we have a friend of mine, Shane Garrett from Garrett Painting. This guy runs. Oh man, I can't wait to talk to him. And he'll just talk to you like it's no big deal. But he runs a tight ship. He has built a company that is so efficient. He's in Missouri, a small town in Missouri, and they're very successful. Runs a pretty decent sized operation, but he has his systems within the office staff. The whole thing is runs like a Swiss watch. When I talk to Shane about running a painting company, I feel like a kindergartner. He's so good. His team is dialed in. It's amazing. I don't think he's been on a project I think he'll tell you he hasn't been to a job site in 10 years, something crazy like that. And they do the best work in his area by far. But he just has checks and balances, and from the time a lead comes in, they process it down a pathway where it's gonna end up going down their pipeline very deliberately, and we'll talk all about that stuff. Shane is a really hardworking, brilliant guy who spent 25 years building this company that runs now super efficiently, and he'll act like it's no big deal, but I'll tell you, it's really impressive. And I'm really excited to have Shane on to talk to him. I've been bugging him for months about this, so I got lucky one day. He just messaged me out of the blue, like, all right, I'll do your podcast. And I was like, yes, people need to hear this stuff. Because when I met him at PCA Expo, and you just meet guys, you don't know what they're all about, and you start talking to them and hear how things work, and he just acts like it's no big deal, but it's really impressive. So stay tuned for Tuesday night. We'll be talking, I would imagine, more about the business operations side of the thing. That's what I like to talk to him about because he's so good, but we'll see. So again, everybody, thanks for joining tonight. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed to our iTunes podcast and liked and rated it, it would make me really happy if you would. I like to read the reviews. I think next week I'm going to start reading all the reviews. I always forget. I say that and then I forget. But the reviews are huge. Sometimes I feel like I'm just like screaming into an abyss and there's nobody there. So it's really nice if you would review and subscribe. And so I'll keep doing these things. I'm going to keep doing them either way, but I'd really be grateful if you would. So everybody have a great rest of your Sunday evening and crush it next week. Thanks, guys.